In 1994, Officer Tom Harris vanished without a trace after responding to a simple call, rescuing a little girl's cat from a tree. His police car was found empty, with no sign of struggle or clue about his fate. For nearly 2 decades, the mystery remained unsolved, haunting his family and the community. Then, in 2013, an unexpected discovery shook the city. Tom's badge, watch, and hat were found hidden in the drawer of a recently deceased ex-general. But how did they get there? What truly happened that fateful day in 1994? It was September 12th, 1994, and Manchester was alive with the vibrant energy of a typical autumn day. Streets hummed with life as Oasis' hit song "Live Forever" echoed from radios and passing cars, blending effortlessly with the joyful shouts of children playing football on street corners. Movie posters of Pulp Fiction, vibrant and eye-catching, adorned walls and bus stops, capturing the city's youthful spirit. Officer Tom Harris started his morning as he always did, arriving early at the bustling Manchester Police Department, greeting everyone warmly. Tom was a sturdy, good-natured man in his mid-30s, recognizable by his friendly blue eyes, neatly groomed brown hair, and a signature thick mustache that curved slightly when he smiled. He had a habit of starting his shift by casually munching on donuts, something that had become a beloved joke among his colleagues. "Morning, Tom," chuckled Officer Jim Dalton, shaking his head at the sight of Tom holding yet another donut. "You know, one of these days you'll end up looking like one of those." Tom laughed heartily, brushing powdered sugar from his uniform. "That's just a risk I'm willing to take, Jim." The police station bustled with friendly banter and paperwork rustling, a comforting symphony of routine. But amid his morning tasks, Tom's thoughts kept drifting to his wife, Amanda. She was 8 months pregnant, glowing with excitement and anticipation for the arrival of their first child, a son they had already named Samuel. Just a few hours earlier, Tom had gently kissed Amanda goodbye at their modest home. Amanda, beautiful in her simplicity, with long dark hair and eyes that radiated warmth, stood in the doorway smiling softly. Tom's hand lingered affectionately on her growing belly. "Don't forget shepherd's pie for dinner," she reminded him playfully. "And you? Better not be late." "I'll be right on time," Tom promised, his voice soft and sincere. "I love you both." As the day wore on, Manchester basked in gentle sunshine, the world seemingly at peace. Mid-afternoon, Tom received a routine call, a small incident, hardly worth mentioning. A little girl's cat was stuck in a tree on Willow Avenue. Simple enough, thought Tom. A brief diversion to brighten someone's day. Pulling up to the charming red brick house belonging to the Collins family, Tom saw little Emily Collins waiting anxiously in the front yard. Her vibrant red curls danced around her worried face as she pointed urgently upward. Her mother stood nearby, relieved to see the familiar figure of Officer Harris approaching. "Don't worry, Emily," Tom reassured the young girl warmly. "I'll have your cat down safely in no time." He climbed up the borrowed ladder from a neighbor, gently retrieving the frightened animal. Cheers erupted from the small audience that had gathered below. Emily hugged her cat tightly, eyes sparkling with joy. "Thank you so much, Officer Harris," she cried happily. "You're very welcome," Tom replied kindly, patting her gently on the shoulder as Tom began to pack his equipment back into his patrol car. His gaze drifted momentarily to the side of the Collins house. Something caught his eye, a faint movement, a shadow perhaps. Instinctively, he paused, curiosity overcoming his sense of urgency to return home. Tom hesitated, taking careful steps toward the corner of the building. As he moved out of sight, Emily's mother called out nervously, "Officer Harris, is everything all right?" No response came. The cheerful atmosphere of the afternoon evaporated rapidly, replaced by an unsettling silence. Confused neighbors approached cautiously, peering around the corner. But Tom Harris had simply vanished. Minutes ticked by as unease morphed into outright panic. Tom's patrol car remained eerily untouched at the curb, keys dangling in the ignition, radio softly crackling with unanswered dispatches. Officers soon flooded Willow Avenue, combing through nearby homes and alleys in desperation, finding nothing. Meanwhile, at the Harris home, Amanda had prepared Tom's favorite dinner, the comforting aroma of shepherd's pie filling their small kitchen. But as time passed and Tom remained absent, her excitement turned to worry, then dread. She sat anxiously in their living room, every tick of the clock echoing loudly in her ears. A sharp knock at the door startled her from troubled thoughts. Opening it, Amanda's heart sank. Jim Dalton stood somberly, flanked by other officers, their faces grave. "Amanda," Jim began softly, voice trembling slightly. "We can't find Tom." Amanda felt the ground slip beneath her, knees buckling as she grasped the doorframe for support. "What do you mean?" she whispered, her voice shaking, tears flooding her vision. "We don't know," Jim admitted painfully. "He's just gone." Days slipped into weeks without answers as Manchester became captivated by Tom Harris's baffling disappearance. Newspapers and television stations relentlessly covered the mystery, theories swirling wildly: abduction, foul play, even bizarre speculations of espionage. Yet every possible lead collapsed into frustrating dead ends. The community shared Amanda's sorrow and confusion. Haunted by Tom's inexplicable absence, the police station became increasingly tense, burdened by the weight of unanswered questions. With a heavy heart, Chief Inspector Matthews faced reporters. In a packed press conference, his voice strained but steady as he announced solemnly, "As of today, we have exhausted every available resource. At this moment, we have no leads, no suspects, and no concrete evidence indicating Officer Tom Harris's whereabouts or what might have happened to him." A painful silence fell over the room, journalists murmuring in disbelief. "The Chief Inspector's" words echoed ominously, amplifying the aching question lingering in every listener's mind. What had Tom Harris seen behind that house? In the days following Tom Harris's inexplicable disappearance, Amanda Harris's life became consumed by an agonizing cycle of hope and despair. Every morning, she woke expecting Tom to walk through the door, flashing his reassuring smile, apologizing for the worry he'd caused. Every night ended in the bitter realization that another day had passed without news. Amanda, heavily pregnant and emotionally drained, clung desperately to the smallest whispers of information, no matter how vague or uncertain they seemed. The Manchester Police Department, under immense pressure, threw itself into the investigation. Officer Jim Dalton, Tom's close friend and partner, spearheaded relentless searches, canvassing neighborhoods, following leads from anonymous tips, and sorting through a maze of conflicting eyewitness accounts. The FBI soon joined the effort, hoping their resources could pierce the cloud of mystery surrounding the case, but each tip ended in disappointment. Amanda sat anxiously beside the phone day and night, gripping it tightly as though her very life depended on it. Calls came frequently, always carrying promises that turned hollow. False sightings in nearby towns sent teams scrambling across the region, only to return empty-handed. Reports of strange vehicles passing through the area yielded nothing but confusion and frustration. The media coverage grew intense, sensationalizing the mystery, fueling public speculation. Headlines screamed theories of kidnapping, secret lives, and even espionage. Amanda tried to shield herself from the painful noise, but it was impossible to escape completely. Friends visited regularly, offering comfort. But their hopeful smiles gradually faded into awkward, sorrowful glances. One evening, Amanda sat numbly in front of the television, barely registering the news anchor's voice detailing the lack of progress in Tom's case. Her eyes blurred with tears as she saw his photograph on the screen, a smiling image from better days, when life was simple, certain, and joyful. Suddenly, the camera cut to a brief street interview, capturing a distinguished-looking elderly man standing confidently in front of a stately home. The caption read, "General Gerald Whittaker, retired. Whittaker, with his white hair immaculately combed and eyes stern yet intriguing, spoke carefully to reporters. It's troubling when a dedicated public servant disappears without a trace," he stated evenly. "I sincerely hope the authorities find answers soon. Officer Harris deserves better." Amanda felt an inexplicable chill run down her spine as Whittaker stared directly into the camera, his eyes conveying a strange intensity, as if hiding more behind his carefully measured words. She shook off the feeling, dismissing it as paranoia. Fueled by sleepless nights. As days became weeks, Amanda grew increasingly desperate, driven to seek answers herself. She knocked on doors in Willow Avenue, politely but persistently questioning neighbors, revisiting the Collins house multiple times, retracing Tom's steps obsessively. Neighbors greeted her kindly but cautiously, sympathy tinged with an awkward helplessness. No one had seen anything concrete, and many began gently urging her to accept the harsh reality. Meanwhile, Emily Collins, just 6 years old, grappled quietly with her own hidden truth. Ever since that terrible day, nightmares haunted her. Emily remembered standing by her window after Tom rescued her beloved cat, watching him curiously. She clearly recalled 2 strange men lurking in the shadows, menacing figures she instinctively feared. One wore a dark coat, his face hidden under a hat. She remembered Tom noticing them too, stepping cautiously toward them before disappearing from view. But Emily said nothing, too afraid that those men might come back for her. Her silence deepened a painful mystery, though no one knew of her internal struggle. Theories blossomed wildly across Manchester. Some believed Tom had deliberately disappeared, escaping a secret life or debts. Others whispered about secret government involvement, especially given the FBI's unusual interest. Still more concocted elaborate plots involving the military, drug rings, or international espionage. Amanda, though haunted by uncertainty, fiercely rejected rumors that questioned Tom's integrity or loyalty. As months wore on without progress, Amanda gave birth to their son, Samuel, a bittersweet joy amid overwhelming sadness. Holding Samuel in her arms for the first time, she saw Tom's features clearly etched in the infant's tiny face. Tears filled her eyes as nurses and family members tried to comfort her. Sensing the profound absence in the room, time drifted slowly forward. Samuel grew, surrounded by stories of the father he never knew, but whom Amanda painted vividly as a brave, compassionate hero. The image of Tom Harris became legendary in the young boy's mind, a figure of strength, courage, and kindness who had simply vanished from the world one ordinary afternoon. Amanda often found comfort in sharing these tales, determined that Samuel know and cherish his father's memory. Yet beneath her gentle stories, Amanda's pain never truly eased. Nights became long, lonely vigils, eyes fixed on Tom's photograph, her whispered prayers pleading for any answer. The endless silence gnawed at her sanity, at her heart, at the very fabric of her soul. Then came the day she feared most, day she dreaded from the moment Tom disappeared. Exactly 1 year after Tom vanished, Chief Inspector Matthews stood before a crowded press conference, his voice heavy, his expression deeply sorrowful. Amanda watched from home, Samuel quietly sleeping in his crib. The room seemed colder, emptier, the air itself brittle with foreboding. Today, the chief inspector began slowly, the room growing eerily quiet. We must unfortunately acknowledge the difficult reality facing us. Despite unprecedented efforts, exhaustive searches, and assistance from multiple agencies, we found no evidence whatsoever. No clues, no reliable witnesses, nothing indicating Officer Harris's fate. Amanda's hands trembled violently as the chief inspector paused, gathering his emotions. Given these circumstances, he continued solemnly, it is our painful duty to announce that the investigation into Officer Tom Harris's disappearance is officially being closed. The case remains open only in name, but active searches and investigations will cease indefinitely. Gasps rippled through the audience as reporters clamored loudly, questions shouted desperately over each other, demanding explanations, accusations flying. Amanda heard none of it clearly, her mind spinning, ears ringing painfully. Closing the door softly, Amanda moved slowly to Samuel's nursery, her heart aching unbearably. Tears streamed silently down her face as she stood over her son's crib. Looking down at the sleeping child whose peaceful face reminded her so painfully of Tom, she reached out gently, stroking Samuel's tiny hand, her voice breaking into a shaky whisper. I promise you, Samuel, no matter what they say, no matter how many times they tell us to let go, I won't. I will never stop looking. I will never stop trying to find out what happened to your father. You deserve answers, and so do I. Amanda's promise hung quietly in the room, determined and unbreakable, mingling softly with the quiet breathing of the infant boy, a fragile, unspoken vow to never surrender. No matter how deep the mystery became or how hopeless the truth appeared. And as Manchester settled uneasily into acceptance of Tom Harris's unsolved disappearance, Amanda Harris stood unwavering beside her son's crib, holding fiercely onto a truth she believed she could one day find. Determined to one day unravel the secrets still hiding in the shadows, the quiet room remained bathed in moonlight, softly illuminating Amanda's resolve, whispering to her that the search was far from over. It was 2013, nearly 2 decades since Officer Tom Harris vanished, and Manchester had transformed significantly. The quiet, brick-lined streets of the mid-1990s had given way to vibrant shopping centers, trendy cafes, and modern apartment buildings. Old neighborhood parks had been renovated into bustling community areas filled with families, joggers, and young professionals glued to smartphones. The city hummed with technology, a stark contrast to the quieter, simpler times when Tom had walked these same streets. Amidst the modern rush of Manchester was Ryan Simmons, a sharp, dedicated detective in his late 20s. Ryan was energetic, methodical, and notably passionate about his work. Having grown up in the city, he had vivid memories of the unsettling disappearance of Officer Tom Harris, a mystery that had fascinated him since childhood and partially inspired his career in law enforcement. He often walked past the spot on Willow Avenue where Tom had vanished, feeling an unresolved tension that motivated him to dig deeper into cold cases. Ryan's dedication was about to face its ultimate test. Early one rainy October morning, workers sorting through the estate of General Gerald Whitaker, who had passed away quietly in his Lancaster mansion, stumbled upon something remarkable hidden inside an old wooden drawer in Whitaker's study. Carefully placed beneath aging letters and files lay 3 objects: a police badge tarnished with age, a watch whose time had long since stopped, and a patrolman's hat, the name clearly embossed, Officer Tom Harris. Within hours, the discovery exploded across media outlets, reigniting Manchester's interest in its most haunting unsolved mystery. Phones at the police department rang relentlessly, and amidst the frenzy, Ryan Simmons received a call he'd long awaited. Amanda Harris sat silently at her kitchen table, gripping her cell phone tightly. She had aged gracefully, her eyes gentle yet carrying the weight of lingering sadness. But in this moment, something else shone their hope. After Ryan's careful explanation, Amanda exhaled slowly, her voice barely steady. "I always knew he didn't just vanish, Ryan. Whatever this means, I'm ready to find out." At Amanda's side sat Samuel Harris, now 18 years old. Samuel, lean and thoughtful, had grown up idolizing the father he'd never known. His soft blue eyes, so much like Tom's, burned with quiet determination as he listened intently. "I want to help too," Samuel interjected firmly. "I deserve to know what happened to my dad." Ryan nodded solemnly, understanding fully. "We'll uncover this together." 2 days later, the trio arrived at the Whitaker mansion in Lancaster. The place was imposing, with ivy creeping along ancient stone walls, shadowed windows hinting at years of secrets locked inside. They moved cautiously through rooms filled with military relics, framed photos of General Whitaker shaking hands with prominent leaders, and shelves packed with dusty books. Ryan methodically led them to the study where Whitaker's belongings had been found. Amanda shivered slightly as she entered the dim room, eyes immediately drawn to the drawer where Tom's belongings had been hidden. Samuel quietly stepped closer, silently absorbing the atmosphere heavy with unanswered questions. They carefully examined every corner, eventually uncovering a hidden compartment behind Whitaker's antique writing desk. Inside lay a stack of yellowed documents. As Ryan sifted through them, he frowned deeply. "These look coded," he remarked, handing a few pages to Amanda. Rows of cryptic letters and numbers filled the pages, suggesting deep secrets deliberately concealed. "Can we decode it?" Samuel asked, excitement edging his voice. "We'll have to," Ryan replied gravely. But clearly, whatever this is, it was dangerous enough to hide. Over the next several days, Ryan and Amanda became engrossed in decoding the cryptic documents. Each deciphered message hinted at a larger disturbing truth, references to illegal weapons trading, clandestine operations, and military officials involved in shadowy agreements. Ryan's suspicions intensified. Tom's disappearance seemed intertwined with these revelations, though how remained unclear. Samuel, meanwhile, spent hours online, searching historical databases for clues about Whitaker and the names appearing in the decoded messages. His dedication and attention to detail impressed Ryan, who saw echoes of Tom's relentless pursuit of justice in Samuel's resolve. As the investigation deepened, subtle changes occurred. Amanda noticed unfamiliar cars parked near her home, people lingering in the shadows, watching. Samuel mentioned strange encounters at school, teachers asking odd questions, peers suddenly curious about his family's past. Ryan grew increasingly cautious, instructing Amanda and Samuel to be vigilant. Then, one night, paranoia turned into undeniable reality. Returning from another tense evening examining documents, Ryan noticed headlights trailing behind his car, matching each turn perfectly. Amanda, beside him, held her breath nervously. "We're being followed," Ryan muttered, gripping the steering wheel tighter. Samuel turned anxiously, eyes wide. "Why would someone follow us?" "They know we're getting close," Ryan replied, carefully maneuvering to evade their pursuers. Eventually, the headlights faded, leaving them shaken but unharmed. Their unease grew the following days as the sense of being watched became ever present. Sleep became elusive. Amanda constantly checked windows and doors. Samuel jumped at small noises. Even Ryan, ever composed, struggled with the weight of uncertainty. They had awakened something dangerous, something determined to keep the truth hidden. On a quiet, tense evening, Amanda sat alone in her living room, the silence heavy around her. Samuel had gone to meet Ryan at the police station, leaving her anxiously waiting for updates. Her phone suddenly vibrated sharply, breaking her uneasy solitude. She picked it up hesitantly. "Hello?" Amanda whispered nervously. A distorted voice answered coldly, words precise and chillingly clear. "Amanda Harris. Listen carefully. Stop digging. If you continue, you'll regret it." "Who is this?" Amanda demanded, voice trembling, but the line disconnected abruptly, leaving her heart pounding violently in her chest. She stared at the phone, terror filling her eyes. Whoever was behind this clearly meant business and knew exactly who she was. Amanda sank into the couch, her mind racing. Fear pressed down heavily, yet a defiant fire sparked within her. She would never abandon the search for Tom, not now. Not after everything. But she knew their pursuit of the truth had reached a dangerous turning point. Minutes later, Samuel and Ryan arrived, concern etched deeply into their faces. Seeing Amanda's pale, shaken appearance, Ryan immediately understood. Something had happened. "Amanda, what's wrong?" he asked urgently. "I just got a call," Amanda whispered shakily. "They told me to stop digging or else." Samuel's fists clenched angrily, eyes flashing determination. "We can't let them scare us away. We've come too far." Ryan nodded, firm and resolute. "We're closer than ever. We have to see this through." Amanda steadied herself, meeting their determined gazes. "Then we keep going, no matter what." The room filled with quiet resolve, though beneath it all, fear lingered ominously. Amanda knew the danger was real, immediate, and closer than they realized. But as she met Samuel's determined eyes, seeing Tom's courage reflected clearly, she knew there was no turning back. Outside, hidden shadows continued watching silently, aware their warnings had been delivered. The truth remained buried for now, but the trio's determination had ignited something unstoppable, promising a collision that would shake the very foundations of their lives. The mystery surrounding Tom Harris's disappearance was finally cracking open, revealing truths powerful enough to threaten everything they believed. Truths someone desperately wanted silenced forever. After the chilling phone call, Amanda, Samuel, and Ryan realized they had entered a dangerous new chapter in their investigation. They knew the threats were not empty, but Amanda's resolve only strengthened. Determined to finally uncover the truth behind Tom's disappearance, the trio dove deeper into the coded documents retrieved from General Whitaker's mansion. Days turned into weeks as they meticulously decoded the cryptic letters and numbers. Their investigation gradually revealed unsettling truths, fragments pointing toward illegal military activities, secret arms dealings, and shadowy operations during the mid-1990s. Each new discovery sent chills down their spines. They were uncovering something big, something powerful. People desperately wanted hidden. As the team decoded the files, one particular document mentioned several high-ranking military officials. One name stood out prominently: Colonel Arthur Bennett, a highly respected officer who retired under unclear circumstances in 2005. Bennett, now in his late 60s, was living quietly in a suburban house near the outskirts of Manchester. The documents implied he had deep connections to the activities that had caught Tom Harris's attention nearly 2 decades before. Ryan wasted no time investigating Colonel Bennett's background, discovering that Bennett had a storied career, highly decorated but clouded with unanswered questions. Reports hinted at disciplinary action buried quietly, rumors of insubordination, and possible corruption. The deeper Ryan dug, the more he was convinced Bennett knew exactly what had happened to Tom Harris. While Ryan was occupied with Bennett's background, Samuel struggled privately with troubling questions about his father. What if Tom had discovered something terrible? What if his father had secrets darker than the heroic stories his mother had shared? Doubts gnawed at Samuel, creating internal turmoil that he fought hard to hide. Amanda noticed her son's growing anxiety, offering quiet reassurances she herself desperately needed. Amid the chaos, an unexpected visitor arrived at Amanda's doorstep. It was Emily Collins, the frightened child from the day of Tom's disappearance, now a woman in her mid-20s. Emily had grown into a reserved young woman, burdened by a secret she had carried her whole life. Amanda immediately invited her in, sensing the importance of her visit. "I've kept this hidden far too long," Emily confessed softly, her voice shaking with emotion. "The day Officer Harris disappeared, I saw two men near my house. They were waiting, hiding behind the bushes. They frightened me, so I never said anything. One was tall, with a dark coat and hat obscuring his face. The other was shorter, muscular, and wore military-style boots." Ryan, summoned quickly to Amanda's house, carefully questioned Emily, whose detailed memory offered vital new information. Ryan showed her a photograph of Colonel Bennett from old military records. Emily hesitated only briefly before nodding. Firmly, "Yes, that's him," she confirmed anxiously, pointing at Bennett's face. "The taller man, though I never saw him clearly." This revelation deeply unsettled the trio. Amanda felt a sharp pang of betrayal. Someone with immense power had been involved in Tom's disappearance. Samuel's anxiety heightened further. What dark secrets had Tom uncovered that day? Were they prepared for the truth? Ryan decided the time had come to confront Colonel Bennett directly. Amanda, determined to be part of every step, joined him. Samuel insisted he come as well, driven by an intense need for answers. Late one evening, the trio approached Bennett's home cautiously. It was a modest brick house, well kept but inconspicuous, located in a quiet neighborhood. Ryan knocked firmly on the door, heart pounding as heavy footsteps approached from inside. The door swung open, revealing Colonel Arthur Bennett. His gray hair was neatly combed, posture straight, eyes sharp despite his age. Suspicion flashed across Bennett's face. "What do you want?" he demanded sharply, immediately defensive. Ryan calmly showed his badge, introducing himself as a detective investigating the disappearance of Officer Tom Harris. Amanda stepped forward bravely, her voice firm but emotional. "My husband vanished 19 years ago. You were near that house when it happened." "Why?" Bennett's expression hardened further, but a flicker of recognition crossed his eyes when Amanda mentioned Tom's name. "Leave," Bennett snapped abruptly, starting to close the door. "I have nothing to say." Samuel, driven by sudden emotion, pushed forward desperately. "Please, Colonel Bennett, I deserve to know what happened to my father." Bennett hesitated, his eyes briefly softening at the sight of Samuel's sincere anguish. But before he could respond, a sudden movement in the darkness outside caught Ryan's attention. "Get down!" Ryan shouted, diving protectively over Amanda and Samuel as a sudden explosion of shattering glass filled the night air. Bullets tore through Bennett's living room, embedding themselves into walls and furniture. The trio scrambled for cover, hearts racing as chaos erupted around them. Bennett vanished into the back of the house, leaving Ryan, Amanda, and Samuel trapped in a frantic fight for survival. Adrenaline surged through Ryan as he drew his weapon, firing back carefully through the broken windows. Amanda shielded Samuel behind a heavy wooden cabinet, clinging desperately to her son. After what felt like an eternity, the gunfire ceased, replaced by eerie silence. Ryan cautiously assessed the room, realizing their attackers had retreated into the darkness. Bennett was gone, escaped out a rear door during the chaos, shaken but unharmed. The trio quickly fled the scene, driving rapidly back toward Amanda's home. Their hands trembled, eyes wide with disbelief. Someone was willing to kill to protect these buried secrets. Back at Amanda's house, Ryan's phone buzzed urgently, breaking the tense silence. The call was from an anonymous informant, voice disguised but urgent. "Detective Simmons, listen carefully. There's something you need to see. In the woods, on the outskirts of Manchester, an abandoned military base. It's connected to Officer Harris's disappearance. Go now, before they erase everything." The caller abruptly hung up, leaving Ryan staring at his phone in stunned silence. "What is it?" Amanda asked anxiously, sensing urgency. "Someone just gave us the location of a hidden military base," Ryan said, his voice grave. "They claim it's linked directly to Tom's disappearance. We have to go immediately." Amanda felt her pulse quicken, determination overcoming her fear. Samuel stood quietly beside her, eyes blazing with resolve. "We'll go together," Amanda declared firmly. "No more running, no more hiding." Ryan nodded solemnly, knowing the stakes had never been higher. This lead was their best and perhaps only chance at uncovering the truth. But as they prepared themselves for the journey, each felt the oppressive weight of the night's events pressing upon them. Powerful forces were now openly opposing their investigation, desperate to keep the truth hidden. Colonel Bennett had escaped, but his involvement confirmed their worst suspicions. Corruption ran deeper than they ever imagined. Amanda stood silently for a moment, her gaze drifting toward Tom's old photograph on the mantelpiece. Quiet tears filled her eyes, blurring his familiar, smiling face. Her heart ached deeply, but a fierce resolve hardened within her. "We're close, Tom," she whispered softly. "I promise you I won't stop until we find you." Samuel stepped forward quietly, gently taking his mother's hand. She turned to him, seeing Tom's courage reflected clearly in her son's steady gaze. Ryan stood beside them, determined and unwavering. They had faced danger tonight and survived. Now they knew the true depth of the danger confronting them outside. Darkness enveloped Manchester, but the trio's determination blazed brighter than ever. They would uncover the secrets hidden within the abandoned military base. No matter what awaited them, they had reached the point of no return. The buried secrets they sought were finally within their grasp, but the road ahead promised even greater danger, revelations that could change everything, and answers they had waited nearly 2 decades to discover. The night was thick with mist as Ryan drove Amanda and Samuel toward the outskirts of Manchester. Each mile felt heavier, the weight of uncertainty pressing upon their shoulders. Following the anonymous tip, they reached Bickershaw Woods, an isolated, forgotten patch of wilderness on the city's edge, known only for its eerie silence and ghostly atmosphere. The forest was dense, overgrown branches clawing at the car windows as they navigated a narrow, abandoned road. Finally, they stopped near a rusted fence, partially hidden by tangled vines. A faded, weathered sign hung loosely from the gate, reading, "Government property, no trespassing." "This is it," Ryan said quietly, stepping carefully from the vehicle. Amanda and Samuel joined him, their breaths visible in the chilly night air. The place felt forgotten by time, its silence oppressive and unsettling. They passed through a broken gate, following a cracked concrete path deeper into the woods. Soon, they reached a clearing, and the abandoned military base emerged ominously. Ahead, its gray concrete buildings rising starkly from the mist, windows shattered, doors swinging broken on their hinges. Nature had reclaimed much of the place, with moss, ivy, and weeds enveloping walls and walkways. The trio cautiously entered the nearest building, stepping into a dim, musty corridor. Paint peeled from damp walls and graffiti from trespassers covered nearly every surface. Broken furniture lay scattered, abandoned in haste decades earlier. Ryan shone his flashlight, revealing the true horror of the building. On each side of the hallway, doors opened to small, prison-like cells. Rusted bars lined filthy, windowless rooms, still bearing faint scratches on the walls, marks of human despair. Amanda's breath caught painfully in her throat. "Tom was here," she whispered, her voice shaking. Ryan nodded grimly. "This must be where they kept him." Samuel's eyes burned with silent fury, imagining his father trapped here, enduring untold suffering. As they moved further into the building, Ryan discovered an office filled with scattered documents, files spilling from rusting cabinets. Amanda and Samuel quickly joined him, digging carefully through aged papers. The more they uncovered, the more horrifying the picture became. Detailed reports documented illegal weapon shipments, secret military deals, and covert operations involving powerful government officials. A specific file, labeled Harris, confirmed their worst fears. Tom had discovered too much that day in 1994. He had inadvertently stumbled upon a clandestine meeting between corrupt officials witnessing their criminal plans. Captured immediately, he was imprisoned here, silenced to protect their dark secrets. Amanda clutched the file tightly, tears streaming silently down her face. Samuel stood frozen, grappling with newfound pride in his father's bravery and anguish over his suffering. Interwoven with their discoveries, vivid glimpses of the past came alive. Flashback 1994. Tom Harris, bound and bruised, was thrown roughly into a cell by shadowy men. Colonel Bennett, younger and ruthless, stood silently watching, eyes cold with authority. Tom had spent endless nights pacing, shouting for help that never came. He scribbled desperate messages, hoping to leave clues behind, etched painfully into the walls, messages that now lay faded, unnoticed. Days stretched into months, then years, as Tom endured isolation, hunger, and endless interrogations, refusing stubbornly to yield or cooperate. Driven only by thoughts of Amanda and the child he'd never meet. The memory faded painfully as Amanda stood trembling in the present, haunted by the reality of Tom's torment. Suddenly, the distant creak of footsteps snapped Ryan back to full alertness. "Quiet," he whispered urgently. They turned simultaneously, listening intently. Silence filled the air, tense and expectant. Slowly, cautiously, they moved toward the corridor. In the darkness ahead, a shadow moved abruptly. Before they could react, gunshots echoed deafeningly through the hall. Ryan shouted desperately, diving to protect Amanda and Samuel. They scrambled frantically behind broken furniture, hearts racing wildly. "Stay down," Ryan ordered, returning. Fire, aiming at the fleeting shadow, moving swiftly between rooms. Chaos erupted, the echoes of gunfire deafening, bullets ricocheting dangerously off concrete walls. Amanda held Samuel close, shielding him instinctively. Samuel clung tightly to her, eyes wide with terror and determination. "Who is he?" Amanda screamed, desperately trying to catch a glimpse. "I don't know," Ryan yelled back, frustrated, dodging another burst of gunfire. The attacker moved swiftly, skillfully, clearly trained and familiar with the base's layout. Ryan's heart sank. They were fighting someone connected directly to this conspiracy, someone prepared to kill to silence them permanently. In a frantic moment of silence, Samuel saw an opening. Fueled by adrenaline and anger, he lunged forward, trying bravely to reach cover closer to Ryan. Amanda cried out in terror, desperately grabbing for him. A single gunshot cracked sharply, followed by Samuel's cry of pain. Amanda's heart froze. Samuel collapsed onto the concrete floor, clutching his shoulder, blood seeping through his fingers. Amanda ran to him, ignoring the danger. Cradling him protectively, Ryan fired again, forcing the attacker to retreat temporarily. He rushed to Amanda's side, face pale with worry. "We need to get out of here now." Amanda's voice trembled fiercely. "Samuel, hang on, we're leaving." They supported Samuel carefully, moving hurriedly toward the exit. Their attacker had vanished into the shadows, leaving behind only tense silence. Ryan helped Samuel into the car, his face grimly determined. Amanda, shaking, sat beside her son, gripping his uninjured hand tightly. Driving rapidly away from the sinister base, Ryan cursed himself silently for putting them in danger. Samuel lay weakly against Amanda, pale but alive. Amanda's face reflected deep shock, disbelief blending with profound relief that they had escaped alive. Arriving at Amanda's home, Ryan quickly attended to Samuel's injury, assuring them it was superficial but painful. Samuel lay exhausted on the couch, eyes closed, breathing slowly. Amanda stood silently nearby, tears streaming unchecked down her face. Ryan paced restlessly, frustration boiling inside him. "I'm sorry," he finally said, voice heavy with guilt. "This shouldn't have happened." Amanda shook her head firmly, meeting Ryan's troubled gaze. "No, Ryan, you helped us get closer to the truth. This isn't your fault. It's theirs." Ryan exhaled deeply, determined resolve filling his expression. "We're not giving up. Whoever that was, we'll find them." Amanda looked at her wounded son, then back to Ryan, eyes fierce. "Yes, we'll finish what we started." "For Tom and for Samuel," Ryan nodded firmly. "I promise we won't stop until we know everything." Outside, dawn broke softly over Manchester, casting gentle light on the city, unaware of the violent battle waged in its shadows. Inside Amanda's home, quiet determination filled the room. They had faced unimaginable danger tonight, yet remained unbroken, their courage stronger than ever. Samuel stirred slightly, eyes opening slowly. Amanda knelt beside him, gently brushing hair from his forehead. "We're okay, sweetheart. We'll keep fighting. Your father would be so proud." Samuel smiled weakly, voice barely audible. "I know he would, Mom." Ryan watched silently, moved by their strength, humbled by their resolve. Whoever opposed them had severely underestimated their determination, yet unanswered questions lingered painfully. Who was their attacker? How deeply connected was Colonel Bennett, who had now vanished without a trace? Ryan knew their next steps would be perilous but essential. The hidden secrets buried in that sinister base held the key to solving Tom Harris's disappearance once and for all. Ryan's gaze hardened as he looked toward the window, dawn illuminating his determined features. "We're close," he whispered quietly. "We'll uncover the truth, no matter what it takes." Their quiet vow lingered solemnly, promising an end to decades of mystery. But danger still loomed nearby, unseen, deadly, waiting patiently in the shadows. In the quiet days following the violent events at the abandoned military base, Amanda, Samuel, and Ryan tried to recover from their trauma. Samuel's wounds slowly healed, yet the emotional scars were deeper, harder to overcome. Amanda spent sleepless nights checking on Samuel frequently, haunted by visions of losing her son as she had lost Tom. Ryan tirelessly pursued every lead, driven by guilt and unwavering resolve to protect them both. Their bond grew stronger, forged in the true crucible of danger and shared suffering. Amanda saw Ryan not merely as an investigator, but as a trusted ally, a loyal friend who had risked everything to help her family find the truth. Samuel, mature beyond his years, understood Ryan's sacrifice and commitment, quietly respecting him as a mentor and confidant. Days turned into weeks, and Ryan's persistence finally bore fruit. Surveillance footage and forensic evidence from the military base identified their attacker as Daniel Foster, an ex-military officer discharged dishonorably years earlier. Foster was deeply involved in the conspiracy, closely tied to Colonel Arthur Bennett and implicated in illegal arms trafficking during the 1990s. After an intense manhunt, Ryan arrested Foster in a secluded cabin miles outside Manchester. The interrogation that followed was emotionally charged and dramatic. Foster initially refused to speak, arrogant and defiant. But Ryan's patient, relentless pressure broke him down, finally compelling him to confess. Foster revealed shocking truths implicating several high-ranking military officers in a clandestine network profiting from illegal weapons deals. Officer Tom Harris had accidentally discovered their operation during a simple call in 1994. After rescuing Emily Collins's cat, Tom noticed Bennett and Foster conducting a secret arms exchange behind the Collins home. Confronting them bravely, Tom was quickly overpowered and taken prisoner to ensure his silence. With chilling indifference, Foster detailed Tom's captivity years of isolation and torment within the hidden military base. General Whitaker, far from being involved, had discovered the conspiracy after Tom's disappearance. Horrified, Whitaker secretly gathered evidence, hiding Tom's belongings in hopes that someday justice could prevail. Whitaker had been preparing to expose the truth when his health deteriorated suddenly, leading to his death. The revelation stunned Amanda and Samuel. They had misunderstood Whitaker, whose silent efforts had sought justice for Tom all along. Amanda felt a profound sense of gratitude toward the deceased general, silently thanking him for preserving the precious clues that had reopened Tom's case. As Foster's detailed confession circulated through the media, public outrage spread rapidly. The ensuing investigation swiftly led to the arrest of Colonel Bennett and several other surviving conspirators. Justice, delayed for 19 painful years, finally prevailed, bringing immense relief to Amanda, Samuel, and Ryan. With the truth revealed, the Harris family became the center of public attention, their stories symbolizing courage and resilience in the face of corruption. The city of Manchester organized an emotional memorial ceremony for Tom Harris, attended by hundreds who admired his bravery and mourned his tragic fate. On a gentle spring morning, Amanda and her son Samuel stand by a new memorial plaque on Willow Avenue honoring Tom Harris where he vanished. Amanda addresses the gathered crowd, her voice trembling with pride as she praises Tom's self-sacrifice and integrity. Samuel follows, declaring that his father's courage will guide him forever. After the ceremony, forensic teams at the abandoned base alert Detective Ryan Simmons to a hidden envelope addressed to Amanda. When he delivers it, Amanda, Samuel, and Ryan read Tom's final letter aloud. Written during his captivity, Tom explains he uncovered a dark conspiracy and endured imprisonment to keep Amanda and their unborn child safe. He urges them to live fully and assures them of his enduring love. Overwhelmed, Amanda weeps as Samuel embraces her, and Ryan quietly steps back to give them privacy. With Tom's innocence confirmed and his love reaffirmed, the family finally finds peace. Days later, Amanda, Samuel, and Ryan share a quiet moment at home, reflecting on their victory and Tom's lasting legacy. Amanda whispers to Tom's photo that his truth and love will never be forgotten, while Samuel vows to honor his father's bravery for the rest of his life.